gentlemen, we welcome you to Angel Stadium on this, the 10th anniversary of the national tragedy that took place on September 11th, 2001. Please join manager Mike Scioscia and your Angels, manager Joe Girardi and the New York Yankees, and former Yankee manager Joe Torre as we dedicate today's game as a day of remembrance. We wish to say thank you to the men and women who bravely and unselfishly put themselves in harm's way as members of our armed forces, police, fire, and rescue services. Today, we reconfirm our commitment to never forget the victims of 9/11 and their families.
This just into our newsroom, a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
All firefighters and officers should report to duty.
The explosion is incredible!
An aircraft crashed into the Pentagon.
A large plane has crashed in Westwood, Pennsylvania.
Today, we've had a national tragedy.
There are untold numbers of heroes that emerged from the events of September 11th. We are honored to be joined by some of them today. On the morning of 9/11, Bob Schiavone was working at his firehouse in the North Bronx, Ladder Company 39. His company was directed to the World Trade Center following the collapse of Tower 1. Bob and his fellow firefighters worked around the clock on rescue operations. Almost 2 weeks following the attack, the focus went from a rescue to a recovery operation. Bob eventually volunteered to work the ceremonial unit. For 6 weeks, he planned and prepared memorial services for his fallen brothers 7 days a week and many times twice a day. In April of 2002, he returned to Ground Zero in a continuing recovery operation so that families could have a funeral for their loved ones. Bob retired from FDNY in January 2006 after serving 20 years and is currently a member of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. Christopher Suprin and his Virginia firehouse were activated to respond to New York when the World Trade Center was initially struck. But when reports came in that a plane had crashed into the Pentagon, he responded with his crew and spent the better part of the next 6 days on duty at the Pentagon, helping with rescue and recovery. Christopher is a veteran firefighter, paramedic, and instructor with 19 years on the street and nearly 15 years in teaching fire, EMS, and emergency management. Christopher continues to work as a frontline firefighter paramedic, and he travels extensively teaching paramedics with a focus on leadership, mass casualty incident management, and terrorism response. Joe Torrio is a survivor of the collapse of the Twin Towers. Torrio joined the FDNY in 1981, and his first firehouse was located on Liberty Street across from the World Trade Center. In 1996, he was transferred to a firehouse in Brooklyn and eventually took an assignment in the FDNY Office of Fire and Safety Education. As fate would have it, on the morning of 9/11, Joe had a business engagement in Manhattan. When hearing of the attacks, he made his way to Firehouse 10 and eventually into Tower 1. Joe knew the towers inside and outside and knew that a collapse was very possible. Still, he entered Tower 1 and convinced first responders to move their triage from the lobby to 4 blocks away. But Joe was unable to save himself from the collapse. He suffered severe injuries, including a broken skull, ribs, and arm. Rescue crews were able to dig him out of the rubble before the second tower collapsed. As responders were preparing to take him away on a rescue boat, the second tower collapsed and he was struck by more debris. The retired lieutenant has spent the last decade as a speaker about his experience. Following the events of September 11th, the men and women of our armed forces were pressed into duty abroad. Joining us today are Navy SEAL First Class Petty Officers Michael Whitten, Eric Francis, and Ken Henderson. These elite Navy SEAL team members have served multiple deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan and are currently instructors for SEAL qualification training. The courage and heroism of our military personnel and the ultimate sacrifice made by many must never be forgotten.
Never.
We are privileged to have these 3 young men represent those who have and continue to serve our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to please rise and kindly remove your hats as the colors of our country are presented today by the Orange County Fire Authority Honor Guard.